All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's virtual neighborhood meeting for a wireless transmission facility, proposed wireless transmission facility located at 640 Alpine Street. Dallas, would you change slides, please? All right, so we'll start off with our agenda for this evening. First off, we'll go through some welcome and introductions. Then I'll move into the meeting overview and format. Once we go over that, I will provide an overview of the proposed project and a description. We'll then talk about next steps for what happens after this neighborhood meeting. After that, the applicant will have a short presentation that they will go through. And then finally, we'll wrap up with an opportunity for public comment and questions. And we'll end with the conclusion. So we can get started with the introductions. My name is Nathan Jones. I'm one of the principal planners here with the city of Longmont. On the call as well, we have Dallas Stiles, who is our digital media specialist. On the applicant side, we have Eric Holden, we have David, and we have Joseph. They will be representing the applicant and the request this evening. So, next slide. All right, so this is, like I mentioned, this is a virtual neighborhood meeting, which means that it's currently being live streamed on the City of Longmont's YouTube channel. It will also be saved on the city's YouTube channel for future reference. When it's time for the question and answer portion of tonight's meeting, there'll be an opportunity for folks viewing to call in. Once you call in, we ask to mute yourself so that there's no feedback issues. When it's your turn to speak, you'll be called upon by the last three digits of your phone number. The call-in phone dial-in number is 1-888-788-0099, and the meeting ID is 828-7251-7453. We'll go over those numbers again before the question and answer period, just to give you a heads up here. And then finally, if you've made your comments and you have additional questions, just press *9 to raise your hand. Next slide. All right, so to get into a little bit about the project, the proposed property is located at 640 Alpine Street. The property is currently zoned residential mixed neighborhood and is currently developed as a religious assembly. Next slide. And the request is for a wireless transmission facility. The proposed height is approximately 50 feet. And within the residential mixed neighborhood zoning district, any wireless transmission facility requires the approval of a conditional use site plan. Next slide. A conditional use site plan is considered a major development application here at the city of Longmont, which means that the final decision-making body is the Planning and Zoning Commission. The first step in a major development application is the neighborhood meeting, which is what we are conducting this evening. After tonight, once the neighborhood meeting has concluded, the applicant will be able to submit an application for the conditional use site plan. That conditional use site plan will be submitted to the Development Review Committee, or the DRC, for review and recommendation. So what that looks like is the applicant will submit all of their required application material. The Development Review Committee will review that. We will review it for compliance with minimum development standards, and then we will develop a recommendation. The Development Review Committee consists of city planners and city engineers. It also includes representatives from the fire department and Longmont Power and Communications. So we will review it all from our different disciplines based on all of the requirements of the land development code, fire code, etc. And we will develop a recommendation based off of that. Once the application is submitted, notice of that application is required to be mailed to all property owners within the notice area, and signs of the application submittal are required to be posted on site. Both the signs and the mailers that are sent out will indicate the contact information from the city. So if you receive the notice or see the sign, it'll have the information for how you can get more, for how you can contact the city and get more information about the proposal. Once the DRC has concluded its review of the application and developed a recommendation, we will schedule the public hearing for the Planning and Zoning Commission to take up the item. So a public hearing, once we get to that stage, again, we will send out notice indicating the time, place, date, time, and place of the public hearing. It will start by city staff presenting an overview of the request and some analysis as to whether or not it meets the approval criteria. The applicant will then as well provide a presentation where they present evidence for whether or not they feel like it also meets the approval criteria. And then finally, there'll be an opportunity for members of the public to speak either in support or opposition of the request. Once all of those presentations are concluded, the Planning and Zoning Commission will take up the request and will deliberate on the item and make a final determination as to whether or not to approve the request. If the request is approved, the applicant will have the opportunity to submit building permit applications to the building official. Building official will then review those permits, and once they are found to be in compliance with the code requirements, the applicant will be able to actually construct the structure. If the Planning and Zoning Commission denies the request, the applicant will have an opportunity to appeal the request. The appeal would go to City Council for approval, and if City Council will then be the decision-making body as to whether or not to approve the appeal. If the applicant decides not to appeal the request, then that is the end of the request. So that is the overview of the procedural steps that will follow with this request. Next slide. So next we will go into the applicant presentation. Eric, that is you. You're up.
Thank you, Nathan. Again, my name is Eric Polden, and I work for SmartLink Group, and we are representing AT&T Mobility, who is also known as AT&T Wireless, as the applicant for this project, which is a proposal for a AT&T concealed wireless tower and equipment building within the city of Longmont to be located at Christ Our Savior Lutheran Church at 640 Alpine Street. Next slide, please. AT&T has chosen a preferred location based on their needs for coverage, and that location is as shown by the red square, which is south of East 9th Avenue, north of East 5th Avenue, east of Lashley Street, and west of Pace Street. The majority of AT&T's preferred location is within residential neighborhoods, with the exception of near the corner of East 9th and Lashley, as well as the subject property. Next slide, please. This shows several locations that were contacted as possible candidates when we were doing our initial reconnaissance for this project. The circle in the top left is the Centennial Lanes. This was not selected as the preferred location because it did not meet the optimal coverage standards for AT&T RF engineering. The next circle to the right is Longmont YMCA, and same thing for that location. It was not the preferred location as it was not the optimal for technology, and ultimately we chose the Lutheran Church location. To note, the property at 9th and Lashley, the commercial area there is very little available space to include a wireless site at that location. So we didn't spend much time looking at that particular spot. Next slide. Verizon Wireless currently has a wireless facility at the Christ Our Savior Lutheran Church. They have antennas located on the rooftop, which are concealed, and they also have a equipment building um, near the middle of the property, which houses all of their radio equipment. Um, Next slide, please. This shows the locations of the existing Verizon equipment on the facility. Again, the antennas are located on the roof of the facility. And they also have equipment in an equipment building located near the middle of the property. AT&T initially looked at having their antennas on the rooftop of this church building, similar to the Verizon Wireless. However, the structural capabilities of the rooftop would not handle the additional weight of the antennas, and there would be a potential for interference issues by locating AT&T antennas too close to the Verizon antennas. So we looked at potential other design for the AT&T site. Next slide, please. This shows the proposed location for the AT&T tower and equipment building. It shows a location of a proposed 50-foot tall monopine tower, and adjacent to that, an 18 by 25 equipment building. Both of these are directly nearby the existing Verizon Wireless equipment building to try and keep all of that equipment in one centralized location on the property. Next slide, please. This is simply a drawing showing the elevations of the tower, which again, 50-foot tall monopine tower with antennas, and a equipment building, which is to be built in a manner as to mimic the existing Verizon Wireless equipment building. Next slide. This is a before photo simulation facing toward the south. Next slide. And this is the same photo with an after view showing the proposed tower and the equipment building behind the existing shed near the parking lot area. Next slide, please. Another photo here of a before view. This is southwest view. Next slide. And the after view as well, with the tower and the equipment building. And then a couple more photo simulations here. Again, before picture, this is to the east. Next slide. And the after photo simulation. A couple things to note is that the installation of this facility will not generate any additional traffic or light or noise. And once it's built, the operations technicians for AT&T will only need to visit the area approximately once a month for routine checks, unless there's an emergency power failure or some other emergency on site. There will be no additional lighting associated with the installation of this project, and all other equipment will be housed inside the equipment enclosure that's being proposed. And with that, that ends my presentation.
All right, thanks, Eric. All right, so we're about to get started with our public comment period. So after this slide, Dallas will speak for a moment on some how to access the call and call in. Before we do so, we just want to go over some ground rules for public comment. As I mentioned, this is a virtual live streamed meeting. It's going to be saved on the YouTube channel, City of Longmont's YouTube channel. So I just wanted to go over some ground rules. Um, each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. We ask that when it's your turn to speak, that you state your name and where you live. And we also ask that you keep your questions and comments related to the current proposal. If a speaker ahead of you has made the same or a very similar point that you intend to make, just in the interest of time, we ask that you be additive and not repetitive. So if somebody made the same comment you were going to make, you're always welcome to say, thank you very much. I agree with what the person ahead of me said. But if you have something new to add, feel free to add it, please. And then finally, we ask that everyone remain civil and respectful towards each other with no personal attacks. So that's the ground rules. Dallas, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. Thank you.
You bet. So we are going to take a 5-minute break here for callers to call in. If you are watching the live stream right now, you are going to dial the toll-free number 1-888-788-0099. When prompted, enter the meeting ID 828-7251-7453. Once you're in the meeting, you're going to be called upon by the last 3 digits of your phone number, and I'll instruct you how to mute and unmute yourself once we are there. But for right now, we're going to take our 5-minute break. If you're watching the live stream, call in if you have questions or comments. Thanks. We've got about 30 seconds left on our timer. If you were still watching the live stream and you are in our meeting right now, make sure to mute that live stream and listen to me through your device that you're calling in on. If you are still watching the live stream and you'd like to call in, this is your last chance. Please do it. 1-888-788-0099. Again, that meeting ID is 828-725-1-7453. With that, we are going to start taking our callers. We do have, it looks like, 3. Again, callers, I'm going to be addressing you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. You can unmute by hitting *6 on your device. All right, we're at the 5 minutes. I'm gonna drop the slide here. And we're going to start with caller 730. Caller with the last 3 digits of your phone number, 730. Would you please hit *6 on your device to unmute?
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, hi. Thanks. I'm wondering, why are the other places not
Do you mind stating
optimal?
your name and address for the record, please?
Marie Block, 538 Elliott Street.
Perfect. Thanks, Marie. Go ahead.
Oh, why are the other spots not optimal? When they said optimal, why are they not optimal?
Yeah, this is Eric. I can start with that, and maybe Joseph can chime in as well. Basically, they like the one slide that had the red square and it gives the preferred location. Based on the engineering that is run, they will ultimately choose a geographic, which is that red square, and then within that red square, our job is to go and find potential properties that might have an interest, would have an interested owner, would have available space, may have additional elevation. So there's a lot of criteria that goes into kind of vetting a specific candidate. But from a technical standpoint, the RF engineers are the ones that make the final call once we submit candidates to them. And I'm not sure 100% what the reason was why this location was chosen over the other two. It may very well be because there's already an existing wireless carrier on that property. Joseph, did you have anything extra that you could add to that?
I think you covered a lot of it pretty well. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. As I'm looking, I was just reviewing today the other candidates that we have, and they're very comparable as far as like the height goes on them, as far as what we're aiming to do. But one of the keys that makes this particular location a little bit better for us is that it is closer to some of the areas where we know we have coverage challenges. So we want our customers to have better service. So one of those key concern areas is to the south and east of this square overall. The others would not necessarily be too problematic, I don't think, from a coverage standpoint. Might be a little bit more challenging in regards to construction. I don't know. But from the aspect of this one being in proximity to where we've already got there's a Verizon carrier in proximity, it seems like it might be a more favorable location.
Okay, thank you. I thought you said the other ones already had a carrier there, and isn't Verizon already here in this spot?
Yeah, Verizon already exists at the church location. The other 2 locations, from our knowledge, do not have existing wireless carriers on them.
Okay. And would this open it up for other carriers as well to be on this spot?
It potentially could. It would be something that the property owner would have to give their approval for another additional carrier to come on. But AT&T is planning to design the tower for the potential of another carrier at a future date.
So approval of this is, would there's plans in place for another carrier as well. Is that what you're saying with this plan?
We have no future plans for another
Okay.
carrier aside from the design of the tower. So it'll be capable to have another carrier in the event that another one comes along at some point, but we have no future plans for that.
It would be capable, and would that mean another tree or not?
No, the other carrier would essentially install their antennas underneath the proposed AT&T antennas on the same tower, so it would not require an additional tower. It would, however, require additional small amount of land, potentially directly adjacent to where the Verizon equipment building is located and the proposed AT&T equipment building is being located. That carrier would also need to construct their own equipment building in the same general area.
I do just want to
Okay.
step in here real quick and just remind that we want to keep the comments to the current proposal. Any future wireless transmissions facilities that would be located here would have to go through an additional review process. So we're not really able to speak on any future, future options that either this property owner or other property owners could have. So just wanted to add that quick caveat there.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And I just wanted to make a comment about the third picture with the tower in it. It, based on how it was viewed, it looks like the tower is like about the size of a small tree. But are there any other pictures that we can look at that would have more of a distinction of how much taller that tower is going to be than the level of the trees in the area?
So I'll respond to that, and Eric, you're more than welcome to add on if you'd like. So the renderings that Eric presented here are conceptual. This is going to sound like another caveat, which it kind of is. So just keep in mind that none of this has been formally, none of the renderings that were presented here have been formally reviewed by city staff. So after tonight, the applicant will submit a site plan that will include renderings of the proposed tower, including height and adjacent structures. We'll review all of that, like I mentioned, for compliance with all of the City of Longmont code standards. And then once we've completed our review and gone back and forth on what the size and location should be, that's the final document that will be taken to the Planning and Zoning Commission for final approval. So once we get to Planning and Zoning Commission, both the applicant and city staff would likely have different renderings and different images to view. And I imagine at that stage, the applicant, Eric's team would be able to present and provide additional renderings of what the actual construction would look like. So
Okay.
Eric, I don't know if you have any additional images that you
No,
can
you
present at
hit
this
it.
stage.
This is pretty much what we have at this early stage, but we would be able to come prepared with additional renderings.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Maureen. We're going to go on to our next caller. Caller with the last three digits, 696. Caller 696, please hit *6 on your device to unmute. Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. My name is Morgan Mook. I live at 742 Cameron Lane. Just have a couple questions to start. Is AT&T evaluating any other properties across Longmont, or like for additional cell towers, or is it just this one?
Nathan, is that something that you wanted to comment on?
Well, just again, quick reminder, we want to keep the comments related to this current proposal. In this case, I'm happy to let you guys answer if you feel like you can answer. I don't know if you have that information available. But for the purposes of this discussion, we should, limit our comments and questions to what's being currently proposed.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's fair. Sorry. Where I'm getting with that is if they're not evaluating other sites across the city, I was just curious why, like, just here.
I don't have any information regarding that. Joseph, maybe you might know that. Um, I think that that's probably data that is going to be submitted to city planning once we get to that point. But again, this is very preliminary.
I will say we do have other areas of Longmont where we know that there are coverage challenges that we are aiming to improve service in. So there's potential for some that might already be in planning versus some others that we're looking further down the road we would want to add. So those would, like they were saying, be under separate projects.
Okay, thanks. I'm curious if there were any less intrusive options for this plan specifically.
I think the initial less obtrusive plan would have been to go on the roof of the church, which is what was looked at initially. But unfortunately, the size of the roof kind of lends itself to potential interference between Verizon and AT&T antennas, as well as the additional weight load of AT&T antennas. There's already a Verizon antennas on the roof and a structure that's concealing those antennas. So they have a pretty good amount of weight on that roof as it stands. So there'd be safety concerns there with that potential design. Ultimately, a tree in an area such as this, where there's a lot of large mature trees um, directly nearby, this would probably be one of the better solutions for concealment. The fact that it's a church property, there could also be a couple of other options. Those were not proposed. And a couple of those options could be like a stealth cross, a stealth steeple, a bell tower, things of that nature.
Someone mentioned that the other areas of the Longmont YMCA and Centennial Lanes wouldn't be problematic from a coverage perspective and would still meet the goals of this project to increase coverage for customers, but they might be problematic from a construction perspective. I would just encourage you all to kind of thoroughly explore those options more before impacting our neighborhood so directly. I just have concerns over a structure like this going in such a residential area, and just kind of leaving the door open for additional industrial improvements around our neighborhood, like the Verizon work has done so far with the church, now leaving the door open for you all. There's also, health concerns related to being surrounded by these like radio frequencies so often for long-term exposure. It just feels like this belongs in a more industrial area and not in a neighborhood.
From an obstructive or intrusive design perspective, the other two locations that were explored would be definitely a more visual kind of structure. Think a silo would definitely be a much more obvious change to what you see around you in regards to that. As far as coverage, Verizon's already got antennas on top of the church, so this would be very comparable as far as what it's doing from an RF perspective. And if you were standing in front of them, 20 feet away from them, you would still have only as strong a signal reaching you as what you have holding a cell phone. So from a coverage, from an effect perspective, we would not foresee there being a significant impact to people in the vicinity.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Morgan. And now we're going to go to our last caller with the last three digits, 120. Caller 120, please hit *6 to unmute.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. My name is Jeff. I live at 644 Buchanan Lane. I guess looking at Google Maps, like with respect to the presentation, I heard you guys talk about coverage in the southeast area being lacking. And I did notice that there's a lot of there's already industrial area around there. Say around, first of all, there's the giant structure of the sugar mill. Then there's also all of the dealerships and a bunch of other stores over there. And there's a fair amount of open space over there that is already sort of the industrial look. So just kind of wondering if that would maybe be a more or less, again, intrusive option as to putting a large, I know it's a pseudo tree, but it still has the feel of less sort of that natural neighborhood vibe that we have going here, and maybe would still provide the same resulting coverage. So you might be able to get a taller structure there. That's just kind of, I guess I'm kind of wondering if that area was looked at.
I think part of the potential issues of going further to the south is that you end up then creating a potential gap in coverage to the northwest. So there's a certain prime spot for sites to go into when they are looking at gaps in coverage. So Joseph, maybe you can fill in the blanks on that, but that was my thought.
I would agree. We definitely have more than one, specific neighborhood that we're trying to serve with this. For example, if we were at the church serving to the northeast of there, there's coverage gaps that we want to take care of there. It was just a more pronounced one that I was referring to earlier, as far as down towards Third Avenue. And we do have other areas of the city that we would like to serve as well. But each site, depending on how tall we can make it, and there are limitations to how tall we can make a given site, is going to limit how far it can serve. So there could be in the future opportunities to pursue additional sites in other areas, but they would not necessarily fulfill what we need in this neighborhood.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I just, I think I have the same similar concerns as the two speakers before me, of just sort of adding more sort of industrial look into the area, and was just curious as to, there is a lot of commercial area surrounding it. So I know the engineering of it that's something that we're not privy to as, residents of Longmont, but yeah, the sugar mill is a very large, high tower. So I don't know if it's structurally sound enough to throw some antennas on, but just wondering, that's all. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. And with that, we have no more callers.
All right. Well, thank you all for calling in and adding your comments and questions. So as I mentioned earlier, so we'll kind of wrap up here. And just to go back to what I mentioned earlier, this was the initial step in the application filing for this request. Now that the neighborhood meeting has been conducted after tonight, the applicant will have the ability to formally submit an application. And as I mentioned, that application is going to be reviewed by the Development Review Committee. We have a list of standards that the applicants will have to show compliance with. Once the application is submitted, it's very likely that the application will be assigned to a different planner than me. But in the meantime, between now and when that application is actually submitted, I'll go ahead and give you all my contact information. Once again, my name is Nathan Jones. My phone number is 303-651-8330. And my phone number is, actually, sorry, I was just reading, I gave you the main contact for the City of Longmont Planning and Development Services Department. I have my contact, my actual phone number pulled up here now. It's 303-774-3585. And my email address is nathan.jonesmeyer@longmontcolorado.gov. So between now and when the actual notice of application is sent out, please feel free to reach out to me if you have any other follow-up questions or concerns that you'd like to have logged. We do keep a record of all the comments and questions that we receive from members of the public, and we will present a summary of that to the Planning and Zoning Commission once we get to the actual public hearing for this request. So with that, I believe that's all that we had for y'all tonight. Thank you very much for joining, and appreciate the feedback.